Okay, Dennis Callahan again, and then Professor Michael Mathias. Yeah, buddy. Yeah. Notre Dame.
Okay. Sinn Fein finds its name from Finn and Finn's people, and Finn's people were great warriors. And this is a sort of enumeration of the quality that Finn's people have, and it is what it sounds like. This is the enumeration of Finn's people. Their strength was 70 officers, each man of these having thrice 9 warriors, and one bound to certain conditions of service, namely that in satisfaction of a guarantee violated, they must not accept material compensation in the matter of valuables or of meat, must not deny any guarantee, nor any single individual of them fly before 9 warriors. Not a man was taken into the Finn, nor admitted whether to the great gathering, to the convention of Tythe, or to Tara's feast, until both his paternal and maternal correlatives, his Tuatha, his kindred, had given securities for him to the effect that though at the present instant he were slain, yet should not claim be urged in lieu of him, and this in order that to none other but to themselves alone should the Fianna look to avenge themselves. On the other hand, in the case it were that they were afflicted great mischiefs upon others, reprisals were not to be made upon their relatives. Again, not a man was taken until he was a prime poet versed in all 12 books of the poetic composition. No man was taken till in the ground a large hole had been made, and he had been put into it with his shield and 4 arms' length of hazel stick. Then must 9 warriors, having 9 spears with 10 furrows width betwixt them and him, assail him, and in concert let fly at him. If past that guard of his he were hurt, then he was not accepted into the Finnship. Not a man of them was taken till his hair had been interwoven into braids on him, and he started at a run through Ireland's woods, while they, seeking to wound him, followed his wake, there having been betwixt him and them but one forest bough, by which an interval of the first. Should he be overtaken, he was wounded and not received into the Finn after. If his weapons had quivered in his hand, he was not taken. Should a branch in the wood have disturbed anything of his hair out of the braiding, neither was he taken. If he had cracked a dry stick under his foot as he ran, he was not accepted, unless that at full speed he had both jumped a stick level to his brow and stooped to pass under one, even with his knee, he was not taken. Also, unless without slackening his pace he could with his nail extract a thorn from his foot, he was not taken into the Finnship. But if he performed all this, he was of Finn's people. So there's the Sinn Fein, and Sinn Fein means ourselves alone, and that kind of thing. So great nationalism began from that spot. The Fenians had a rising in 1867, and many of them were killed, and it was it's one of the many sort of patriotic tragedies in Ireland, the perpetual revolution and repression that took place. At the grave of O'Donovan Ross, these words were said in response to what had happened to the Fenians at that time. And so a great speech, and you can hear all the sort of fire of Irish nationalism in it. So here's that, at the grave of O'Donovan Rossa. It has seemed right, before we may turn away from this place in which we have laid our mortal remains of O'Donovan Rossa, that one among us should, in the name of all, speak the praise of that valiant man, and endeavor to formulate the thought and the hope that there are in us as we stand around the grave. And if there is anything that makes it fitting that I, rather than one of the gray-haired men who were young with him and shared in his labor and his suffering, should speak here, it is perhaps that I may be taken as speaking on behalf of the new generation that has rebaptized the Fenian faith. and that has accepted the responsibility of carrying out the Fenian program. I propose to you then that here, by the grave of this unrepentant Fenian, we renew our baptismal vows, that here, by the grave of this unconquered and unconquerable man, we speak of God, each one for himself, such unshakable purpose, such high and gallant courage, such unbreakable strength of soul as belonged to O'Donovan Rossa. Deliberately, we here now avow ourselves, as he avowed himself in the dock, Irishmen of one allegiance only. We of the Irish Volunteers and you who are associated with us in today's task and duty are bound together and must stand together henceforth in brotherly union for the achievement of the freedom of Ireland. And we know only one definition of freedom. It is Tone's definition. It is Mitchell's definition. It is Ross's definition. Let no man blaspheme the cause that the dead generations of Ireland served by giving it to another name and definition than their name and their definition. We stand at O'Donovan Ross's grave not in sadness, but rather in exaltation of spirit, that it has been given to us to come thus into so close a communion with that brave and splendid Gael. Splendid and holy causes are served by men who are themselves splendid and holy. O'Donovan Rossa was splendid in the proud manhood of him, splendid in the heroic grace of him, splendid in the Gaelic spirit and charity of truth of him. And all the splendor and the pride and strength was compatible with a humility and a simplicity of devotion to Ireland, to all that was olden and beautiful and Gaelic in Ireland, to the holiness and simplicity of patriotism of Michael O'Clery and Owen O'Gorney. The clear, true eyes of this man must alone in his day visioned Ireland as we of today would surely have her, not freely merely, but Gaelic as well, not Gaelic merely, but free as well. In a closer spiritual communion with him now than ever before, perhaps ever again, in the spiritual communion with those of his day, living and dead, who suffered with him in English prisons, in communion of spirit, too, with our own dear comrades who suffer in English prisons today. We speak on their behalf as well as our own. We pledge to Ireland our love. We pledge to the English rule in Ireland our hate. This is a place of peace, sacred to the dead, where men should speak with all clarity and with all restraint. But I hold it a Christian thing, as O'Donovan Rossa did, to hate evil, to hate untruth, to hate oppression, and hating them to strive to overthrow them. Our foes are strong and wise and wary, but strong and wise and wary as they are, they cannot undo the miracles of God, who ripens in the heart of young men the seeds sown by young men of former generations. And the seeds sown by the young men of 65 and 67 are coming to their miraculous ripening today. Rulers and defenders of the realm had need be wary if they would guard against such processes. Life springs from death, and from the graves of the patriot, men and women spring living nations. The defenders of this realm have worked well in secret and in open. They think that they have pacified Ireland. They think that they have purchased half of us and intimidated the other half. They think that they have foreseen everything and think that they have provided against everything. But the fools, they have left us our Fenian dead. And while Ireland holds these graves, Ireland unfree shall never be Ireland at peace.
What year was that written?
1880 maybe, or something like that. James Joyce found that sort of nationalism a mouthful, and he didn't much like it. And he fled from Ireland and from that sort of unilateral vision. During the time when Joyce was writing Dubliners and writing A Portrait of the Artist, there were language schools, and so off people would go to the Gaeltacht to get in touch with their roots and such and such. I too, off I went to Ireland to get in touch with my roots and all of that business. They told me I was American. So Joyce had the same experience, and at the end of Portrait of the Artist, as a young man, he hears a story from one of his friends who had gone out to the West to learn to speak Irish.